Hey Kaylin, how you doing today? Good to see you.
Oh, it's great to see you, Kayo. I'm happy to be here. Thank you for the invitation.
You're very welcome. How's your day been so far?
Well, it's just starting, so yeah, it's great. I've got loads of fun things going on today. So,
Yeah, a fantastic way to start the day with a conversation with you and myself. Yeah, so let's go ahead and get
yes,
started. Let the people know who you are, what you do, and why you do it, Kaylin.
absolutely. My name is Kaelen Marie, and I am a pleasure coach, a spiritual teacher, and an energy healer. And I help women heal sexual trauma from religious conditioning, bringing them back into their sacred space and divine right of pleasure. And that's what
Excellent.
I get to, that's the realm I get to play in on a daily basis.
Excellent, excellent. So when you think back to before you started doing that, like what
So,
was the kind of trigger moment for you where you decided that's what you wanted to do going forward? What was going through your mind, your kind of mind process at the time when you figured out that that's what you wanted to do?
well, let me just give you a little bit of background on me, Kayo. So, I completed a 35-year marriage 3.5 years ago. I was very active at that time in the Mormon faith, the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, and I am a sexual trauma survivor. And so, like a lot of things brought to that space that allowed me to go, oh, there's things that I have to do, there's things that I have to shift. And when you are in any type of organized religion, like I'm just going to be raw here. Can
Oh
I
yeah,
swear?
yeah, you can express yourself,
Okay, good.
express yourself completely.
Good. Because when guys are 2 years and starting, like they've been playing with their cocks and peeing, and they're in touch with themselves. Women, you don't go down there. You don't go down and you don't touch the pussy. You don't explore the pussy because if you do, that is a direct ticket straight to hell. At least that's what I was taught, right? And so when this moment came, and this was in 2022, I had completed the marriage. I had been asked to speak at an energy healing conference in northern Utah. And so I'm like, this is so exciting. And I had put my business on the back burner because I'd had it since 2016. And Spirit's like, okay, you're going through some stuff. So we're going to close it off. And so in 2022, it started to open up again. And I said, okay, you know what I'm supposed to speak on? What is this? And that is literally when Spirit's like, okay, you're going to be helping women, sexual trauma, religious conditioning, and you're going to bring them into pleasure, which means you've got to figure out your own pleasure. Let me tell you what, I was scared as fuck. I was terrified. And when I was like, okay, you know how you start something and you resolve and you're like, all right, I guess we're doing this. Okay, I guess we're doing this. And then you go and you do it.
Right,
And saying it and doing it are two different things,
right,
right?
right.
So when it came to that time for me to have to go and explore myself, I'd hired a sacred sexuality coach out of Paris. It was amazing. The first time I got my hand mirror and I looked down and I gazed at my pussy, dude, I cried. I cried because for the first time, I found the goddess that I'd been looking for my entire life. And she'd been with me this whole time. And then in my mind, I'm thinking, oh, it's a one and done. I'm good. I don't have to go there anymore. Well, no. And then in the middle of last year, Spirit's like, okay, it's time for you to become a pleasure coach
Right.
because that's that final part that you need to bring the women over. And so I went through a certification program through the School of Womanly Arts based out of New York City, and I'm a certified pleasure coach. And here I am talking about pussies and cocks all day long and having a fucking great time doing it.
Fantastic, fantastic. Like speaking about the sexual trauma and, coupled with the religious background that you have, it would have been hard for you to express a lot of things that you had within yourself. And a lot of people that go through different traumas, like, they find it hard to express it as well. And like for you now, you are able to now speak on it and help people like with it. So like for people that are also going through that kind of a process, that trauma process, like how could they navigate through those, just like the way you navigated through that trauma? How, in your opinion, can they navigate through that to get to a better place in their life?
That relationship starts with you. And it starts with the divine, whether you call it God, Jesus, the divine, Holy Spirit, it doesn't make a difference. But you have to be in connection with your higher power because that is the only way you are going to get through it. Because then you got to pour that love back into you because you think you're shameful, you have fear, you have guilt, you have all of these horrible feelings. You are completely stuck. You're immobile. Like you can't move forward in life. And when you start to say, I've got to have divine guidance here, show me the way, show me the way, show me the way, show me the way. Show me how to love me. Show me how to connect back into my divine right of my pleasure. Show me how to remove and release the shame, the guilt, the fear, the sexual trauma, and you will be led. That sincere heart counts for everything. You will be led because that's exactly how God designed it.
Excellent, excellent.
So,
Yeah, fantastic. So, like speaking about like being led by the Spirit, like for yourself, like when you was asking to be shown the way, like what was shown to you that led you to like really be able to open up and express yourself more?
well, okay, I'm just going to be transparent here. Um, Last May, end of May, I was going for a booty call. And I was going over to a friend's house and it was 10:30 at night and I drove into a hailstorm. And I didn't know it was storming outside. And I was just like 2 miles from his house. And oh my gosh, the hail was so loud and so I had to pull off the side of the road for 30 minutes, Kyle, for 30 minutes. My vehicle is pulverized and I'm just waiting for the windshield to implode. And it felt like there were people outside just banging it with bats. And I'm sitting in the car and I'm praying and I'm praying and I'm praying. I'm like, God, you got to help me. I got to get through this. And so when it finally ended, I called the guy. I'm like, I don't think I'm going to come over. He's like, oh, come on, of course, me. I'm like, okay. Okay, worst 45 minutes of my life. Nothing to drive home to anybody about for anything. But I had to have it be that shitty to wake me up because on the way back, Spirit's like, okay, baby girl. Okay, baby girl. Here's another thing that I have to do. I'm getting your attention. And this is how I had to do it because you got to wake up to what you're really meant to do. Now, I'd been focusing on, I know how to help women get through the sexual trauma and the religious conditioning. I was still missing that bridging part over into pleasure.
Mm.
So I get home and I like Spirit's like, I'm feeling all the feels. I wake up the next morning, I know exactly what I've got to do. And there's the book. Let me go grab the book because I got it right here because I
Okay,
keep
go
it
ahead.
out. Spirit's like, you have to read this. You got to read this book. And I've had it for like 2 years. Okay.
Okay.
By Regina Thomas Shower, aka Mama Gina. All right. I read the first 3 chapters and I'm a bawling wreck because I realized I have found that final missing piece to bridge me back into my pleasure and that turning point of where I had to literally, Kayo, I had to face the religious conditioning and the trauma on a deeper level, on a level that took me to my core. And one of those experiences was I'm in class, there's 88 women, and one of the tools that we practice is called the striptease. Yep, just like it sounds. And that day I was not feeling it. And the average attire for pleasure class is lingerie, right? Why wouldn't it be? Well, that day, nope. I'm in my flannel pajama bottoms. I'm in my pajamas and I got a ratted sweatshirt, hoodie sweatshirt. And I'm just like, I want to hide. I don't want to be seen. Well, I'm fucking sticking out like a sore thumb. And Mama Gina, she goes, Kaylin Marie, you're going to do a strip tease for all of us. And I'm like, and I'm freaking out. This is like maybe 5 weeks into the program, and my heart starts to race, and I like panic attack like, and I start to my eyes start to well up with tears, and I'm like, and then she says, "Come on, sisters, let's cheer her on. Let's help her through this." And in that moment, as I started, and thank goodness you don't have to take everything off because this bitch wasn't going to be taking everything off. Let's just be clear on that in that moment. And they all just started to rally around me. And as I'm going through the process and I'm taking off and I just get down to where I have my pajamas and my underwear on. And I take off the sweatshirt and the flannel pajamas. And in that moment, I realize that it is women that help heal other women in sisterhood and rally together because there's no way I could have done it on my own. But when all those 88 women came together just for me, I shifted, I changed, and I knew the power of sisterhood and community in
Yeah.
healing.
Beautiful, beautiful. So it was really the support of the women around you and the support of your sexual and feminine expression that they had for you that really allowed you to open up. Would you agree with that? Right. And
Yes.
I can see it makes you emotional just thinking about that moment as well. Very,
Yeah, it changed the trajectory because now I can hold that same space for those women that I now coach.
excellent.
And
Excellent.
that's powerful.
For sure, for
That's
sure. Now, another thing that tends to cause trauma within relationships as well is when there's gender roles. When we speak on gender roles within relationships, traditionally someone tends to lead in a relationship and the other person chooses to follow. Now, some people feel like there's no need for these type of gender roles. Everyone should be free to navigate how they want to in a relationship. And some people feel like it's very natural to have gender roles within relationships, that this is like a divine order for there to be gender roles. So, with that being said, what is your viewpoint on gender roles within relationships?
That is such a beautiful question. You know, this is so interesting because my experience was up until literally just in the past year, I had always been a very codependent person. And so for me, gender roles were easy. That was easy. I could go in and say, hey, my ex, I would say, all right, I'm going to go in and clean the house, do my things, you go do your things outside. And it was easy. Plus, religion, organized religion, lends itself to those types of expressions, those types of relationships, those types of gender roles, right? And so now that I have been single, it's different because I see it now as such a true partnership that when those people come together and they know that they're divinely meant and brought together to be together and they feel it, there's going to be something that's going to be very unique to them. It's not going to be something that's going to be saying, hey, structure says, society says, da 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 says, this is how it has to be. No, it's whatever that couple decides it's meant to be that works perfectly for them.
Um,
Because we get to write our own story. Nobody's going to write it for us. We get to be the ones to write that story.
Right, right. So essentially, like balancing and complementing each other, kind of like yin and yang, where your strengths are and where your weaknesses are, complementing that with each other. So yeah, I definitely do agree with that. So like, like when we look at like society and even organized religion versus human nature, it doesn't always line up perfectly. For example, like people get married, but at the same time, they still have attraction towards other people sometimes. And sometimes people feel like, okay, well, there's different ways we can have relationships. It doesn't have to be monogamy. There's different structures that we can have, right? So, but sometimes they get conflicted because of like society and religion as well. So, with that being said, and within the context of human nature and the fact that we're attracted to different people, what is your viewpoint on monogamy versus non-monogamy?
Dude, I'm just going to say, me personally, I'm a very monogamous person. I don't like to share my people, my person with anyone. That's just me. Um, am I attracted to other people? For sure. Would I act on that? No, because I like being in that one space. Now, with that being said, if I'm not being fulfilled in the way that my relationship is meant that I'm desiring it to be, I've got one of two options. I can either go and say, "Hey, we got problems. Let's figure this out together." And if my partner doesn't want to, I will more than likely go and find something else to fulfill that void, to fulfill that need, to fulfill that desire, because I'm not receiving it in that relation in the relationship. All right. But I know, I've got many, many friends where polyamorous is their thing, ethical non-monogamy is their thing, and it works for them, right? Me, I've just always been a person who was like, I like my person. Let me just have my person, and I'm good with that.
Right.
So I think it just depends upon what works best for them.
Yeah, for
So
sure.
yeah.
Yeah, you spoke on filling the void if something was being unfulfilled in a relationship, right? So do you feel like someone can fulfill everything for another person within a relationship,
Oh,
or what is your opinion on that?
once again, it's coming down to me fulfilling my own needs. It comes down to me going within and seeing where am I having struggles? Because let's be honest, we're not meant, we think society has trained us that we're meant to go and find what we need outside of us to fulfill whatever it is that we're lacking. When in actuality, it's going to be, what am I missing within me? And if I get a hit, that I need to go and find something outside of me because that's what I'm guided to, because I'm genuinely asking, I'm genuinely desiring this. Then, if that's where I'm led, then that's where I'm going to receive that answer. But first, I'm going to go within, right? Because if I just go out, it's like, let me just go get a buckshot and just see, and just let it all splatter. And it's not going to give me any direction at all, right? But if I come in and I'm like, all right, this is my vessel. And you know that saying, you got it all within you. Everyone says that you have all the answers within you. I used to think that was a very trite statement until I realized every human is embodied with ancient wisdom that is their own.
Right,
And when they go in within, tap within, listen, receive, and then take that inspired action, they have literally given themselves everything that they've ever desired. The hardest thing for me after completing a 35-year marriage was learning to live on my own, to be on my own, to be my own person. And yet it was required because that was me learning how to fill my cup up and learning how to be my own ancient wisdom and then making that connection with the divine, with God, way stronger, way stronger. Because at the end of the day, I may not need anybody here, but I will always, always, always require that connection to God.
right,
For
right.
me, that works well.
Right, for sure. Like putting like your connection with the higher power first will always like guide you more than any person can guide you in this life. So that's a very wise statement to make. Like because a lot of people look to another person's guidance, but that's another human being. It can never be the same as like a higher power guiding us. But with that being said, like people do get very attached to to other people, right? So when they tend to get attached, jealousy can be something that comes up, especially within relationships. For example, in a monogamous relationship, it could be, oh, I noticed that you're looking at this person and it kind of makes me feel a certain kind of way. Or even in a non-monogamous relationship, it could be you're spending more time with this partner than you're spending with me. So the partner that's always been accused of these things wants to let their partner know that there's nothing to be jealous about. So in your opinion, how can that partner let their partner know that there's nothing to be jealous about? And how could the partner that's going through jealous emotions start to deal with the emotions of jealousy?
That's a big, like for me, when I hear that jealousy word, that is a big red flag saying that that person has trauma within them that's feeling the jealousy that they haven't chosen to address or heal. And that is something that they have to go and do the work. They got to do it because there's an insecurity there. There is something that happened in their past that is causing these feelings that there's no need for that feeling to happen, right? There's just no need for it. And so the person who is jealous, or the person who's saying, being accused of the jealousy, there's the person who's jealous and the other person, um, love that person. Just love that person. I mean, everything, in my opinion, can be solved when you are genuine and you pour love into that human, right? And say,
Right.
baby, baby, I'm yours. Why would I be jealous? Is there something, and ask, be bold. Ask, is there something that happened in your past that caused you to have these jealous feelings? And I love you so much that I'm going to ask you to go and figure that out and work that out. If you need to see a therapist or a life coach, I'm pro life coach, big time. Therapy is great until it's not, but I am pro life coach. Do what it takes to go in and do that inner work to figure that out because there's nothing to be jealous of.
Excellent, excellent. Yeah, communication is definitely a key element to this because a lot of people they suspect something and they try to jump to conclusions by themselves without communicating. But once you communicate, you can actually put everything on a table and get to the bottom of the situation much easier that way. So yeah, that's fantastic. But with that being said, sometimes it's not just empty jealousy. There's some truth to it because infidelity happens in relationships, right? So,
Oh,
like,
yeah.
once infidelity has happened, it breaks trust, right? So, when the partner that stepped out of a relationship communicates to their partner that they have been unfaithful, now the partner has a choice. Now, some people will say, okay, you've cheated on me, that's it, we're done, there's no way back from this. And some people will be like, okay, let's talk about this, let's communicate about what has happened, and let's see if we can get past this and continue with our relationship. And with that being said now, like, what is your viewpoint on forgiveness after infidelity in a relationship?
It's not easy. It's required.
Right.
It is absolutely not easy to forgive. Those things are going to keep coming up. But if you don't forgive, here's the thing that people have to remember. Forgiveness is not for you. Forgiveness is for me. It's for me to heal my own soul. Otherwise, it is literally, and I've heard this so many times, it is a cancer that will eat you alive if you are unforgiving. Yeah, they may have hurt you really bad. I can say this because I was married for 35 years to a very narcissistic man who had been controlling my life. And I learned this from my children, my grown children, like 5 years ago. And I went through all the emotions. I went through everything. And I was mad until I wasn't because I had to go through that forgiveness process. And I had to ask for help. And I had to do the forgiveness for me because it literally was eating my soul alive. And I was so mad and I was so angry. And those emotions they're going to be the same with any kind of situation, any kind of betrayal. You're going to feel that anger. You're going to feel victimized. You're going to feel traumatized. You're going to feel you can't trust, which means there's this mirror that's popped up that you got to take a look at and you got to go, okay, I see in my life where I need to fix myself because these things are happening for a reason and I got to be ready to face it and look at it. And so that forgiveness, that's for me. And the benefit of it is I get to either stay in the relationship or not.
Right.
But it's for that forgiveness is for me.
Right, right, yeah, excellent. Now, speaking about your 35 year marriage that came to an end, like, we were speaking about like forgiveness and everything, and you mentioned like having to give that forgiveness in order to move on. So what exactly was it that you had to forgive when that marriage came to an end, and how did like things pan out for you in that period where you realized it was going to come to an end?
So in 2019, my mom says to me, this is when she was still alive, she's like, "You've got problems in your marriage." And I'm like, "What?" I didn't want to see it. And I didn't want to see it until I had to see it. And then in the end of 2020, my children say to me, "Oh, mom, dad's been controlling you your whole entire life." And I'm like, "What?" And they're like, "Yeah, pardon me, my Alexa's going off. Da 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 da." There we go. Sorry about that. But what happened was that they're like, "Hey, mom, dad's been controlling you your whole married life." And so these things slowly started to happen to wake me up, because if it had all happened at one time, it would have been too much, because my identity of who I thought I was at that time was tied into the church, was tied into my marriage. And that was my whole everything. And so that happened very gradually. When I realized that I had to complete the marriage, that was the hardest thing in my life, because I was like, I'm breaking all kinds of commandments by God, and I didn't want to do that, but I had to, because I was dying. I was literally dying. I was in a state of mental depression, and it was terrible. And when I came through that, all of that was it was a process. There was no one defining moment. I mean, let me tell you the last experience where I've stood up, and this is because I'm still the matriarch of my family. Okay. He's now remarried. He remarried 3 weeks after the divorce was final. That's on him, right? And or Thanksgiving, oh, it was terrible. It was the first time that my children and their families, my ex and his new wife, and me were all together for Thanksgiving. And the tension was terrible. And my children had to run and, be the buffers in between. And I'm like, "No, that can never happen. My children should not ever have to run interference for their parents." So at Christmas time, when we were together again, my ex and his wife had come over doing Christmas stuff. And because I'm the matriarch, I get to choose how I wanted that situation to be. And I infused pleasure into it, because that's what I realized was needing. So as soon as they walked in, they were knowing that I was there. I was like, "Hi guys, how are you?" Being genuine, and I really meant it. And they're like, "Oh, good." And they had just purchased a new property in another state. And I said, "I am so excited for your new house. Like, congrats." Like, I'm seriously excited. Dude, the whole energy shifted and just melted. And it was good. It was good. We were amicable. And that took almost 3.5 years to get to that point. So it's a process, and you got to love yourself like fucking crazy through it, because it's not easy.
For sure, for sure. Yeah, we're never in
Yeah.
control of like the situations that life can bring about, but we are in control of how we choose to respond or react to it. And the way you chose to do it was what caused the calm of the situation that made it amicable for you. So that's a great example of how, we are in control of how we react to stuff, and can change the outcome of a situation by our own reaction. Yeah, fantastic. So, speaking about relationships that end, new relationships also start, right? And when new relationships start, we tend to get excited about a new person that we really like. And some people, they start to feel a lot of butterflies when they're finding someone new, right? And sometimes it's to the extent that some people start to lose their sense of self in the process, because they really immerse themselves in this new person. So in your viewpoint, how can someone immerse themselves in a brand new relationship without losing their sense of self in the process?
You know what? I lost myself for 35 years, and I made a promise to my soul I will never, ever, ever do that again. Ever. Your connection to you, your relationship with you has got to be so rock solid that when that person comes in, they are just adding to your life. I had a friend tell me, and I thought this was beautiful. "I'm the cup of water that's already full. I'm full. And what they do is they bring that flavoring, that you can squirt into it and make it be all, they're just adding flavor to my life because I'm still whole. And it's critical that you remember that because I, and here's the deal, like for the past 3.5 years, I dated once for like 4 weeks. I wasn't ready. I was still healing. I was still figuring this beautiful, glorious vessel out, right? I've started putting myself back out there because now I know who I am. I know who I don't want to ever be again. And I know who I am now and how I show up and how I show up in my life just for me is completely different than how I used to show up because I value this way too much to lose myself ever again. So you got to ask yourself, how in love with me am I first
Excellent, excellent,
that I'm able to bring someone else into my life
excellent,
and
excellent.
continue this love for me?
Fantastic, fantastic. Well, Kaelen, thank you so much for coming on. Thank you for everything that you've shared. It's been a great pleasure talking to you. Where can people find you, find out more about you, and find out more about what you do?
Absolutely. My website's going to be the easiest. It has all my juicy information at kaelenmarie.com, KAELENMARIE.com. My social links are there. My booking schedule's there. Everything is there. So yeah, come and see me. I'm here to help love and serve.
Fantastic, fantastic. And for the viewers, Kaelen is also now with us on Mates Coach, so you can also find Kaelen on Mates Coach. And all the links to her socials and her website will be in the description, so you can get in touch with Kaelen and find out more about what she does. Once again, Kaelen, thank you so much for coming on. Any final words before we wrap up? Oh, she froze a little bit there. All right, excellent, excellent. So I'm going to
I can
end.
give it to you. No one else can fill that void.
Okay, like yeah, the thing you was breaking up a bit. If you could just repeat that for us, please, Kaelen. We had a little bit of a lag there.
Absolutely. No one else can do your pleasure or feel your pleasure. That is up to you. And you got to be the one to take ownership of it. Because if you don't love you, nobody else is going to love you the way that
Excellent,
you desire.
excellent. Thank you so much, Kaelen.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Kai. It's been wonderful. I appreciate you.
You too, Kaelen. You take care now.